Well, hello everybody. Yes, it is a Wednesday and it is 2 o'clock, and that means one thing. I know the entire country and world is sitting on tender hooks now. So, welcome. Wednesday, 2 o'clock. Yep, it is time for Make Stories Matter. I am Matthew Taylor with Persuasion Through Narrative, and it is this time every week that we sit and have a little chat about story and different little elements of it. And so today's topic is inner stories and why they're so important. So, first off, we should probably say what is an inner story. And for me, the inner stories are the stories that we tell ourselves. Is one of the elements. There's another one as well, which is also the stories that we tell other people. But what we're doing is revealing who we are as people. And so they are those odd kind of stories that are not necessarily fall in that genre where everybody's like, oh yeah, that's obviously a story, um, but they're absolutely critical, and really, it's like, why are they so important? Um, I think the big part for me is that they shape our own personal narrative. So they shape what we think of ourselves, but then also they are what influences other people's opinions of who we are as people, like the narrative that they think we are. And so they're critical if you want people to know who you are, like honestly, truly who you are as a person. It's those little moments that you can reveal that help people build the picture themselves, but they build an accurate picture of who you are. So inner stories are huge, and we use them all the time, and they're working all the time. So what we'll do is let's chat about the ones that we share to other people, um, which are our inner stories. So we've chatted in the past a little bit about wants. It's like that we all want things, and that usually those wants are good. They are usually to help other people. But anytime we have a want, the only way we can usually get that is by having other people help us. And so we have to buddy up with other people. That's just the way the world works. It works just whether we're being social, it works whether you're parenting, and it works whether you're in business, whether it's sales, whether it is trying to get funding. It's just everywhere. And what it comes down to is early on building that connection with somebody. And what that is a relationship. It's how do you get a relationship with somebody? And we have to let people know who we are so they can decide that they want to have a relationship with us. Which is, if you think about it, a relationship is when somebody kind of follows you. You know, it's a friendship. But it can be a business friendship, it can be a romantic friendship. There's multiple, parents, mentors, pieces like that. But it's like, why did you follow another person? And we'll talk a bit more in depth on this as well when we do a section on leadership, where story is obviously an enormously important part in leadership as well. So what we'll do is I'll do a little bit of it right now, which is Gallup did a research, because initially I was like going and doing my own, which is always a little dodgy. But I was looking at mentors. I was thinking of somebody who was a mentor of mine, and I was like, what are the qualities that person showed me that made me want to follow them? And I was thinking of like Roger Gilliard, and Mary Shirley, and Peter Clemenson, who were people back in England who really influenced my life. And so I was looking, and I found that there was kind of similarities between these qualities. And then this is when I realized Gallup had done all the work for me, and they had done research on what it is that somebody looks for in another person in order to follow them. And they came up with 4 buckets, like 4 words, but they kind of encompassed everything that they were getting all the research back, and put them into these 4 different words. And I was going, this is going to be interesting, because Gallup are kind of the bean counters of the world. I mean, they're very smart, put numbers to everything, and statisticians, And I was like, this is kind of a touchy-feely kind of an area, probably. So I was just interested to see how they grappled with it. So this is what they came up with. One was trust. Number two was compassion. Number three was stability. And number four was hope. And I was like, wow, I would love to be in a fly on the wall in that little office when he came in. And they're like, what? Like, trust, compassion. It's like hope. And it's like, well, stability we can do something with. That's fairly, that gives the credibility and the knowledge and, the punctuality and all these kind of things. But the others are all a bit like, whoa, out there. And yet, when I was looking at mine, and I'd recommend you do it, it's a kind of an interesting exercise. Pick one person who's a mentor and just jot down why. Why did you do it? And invariably, it'll fall into those categories: trust and compassion, and the stability and hope. And so, this is where those inner stories that we share with other people become such an incredibly critical part. And I think a lot of people kind of don't realize it or really have an idea that that's what they're doing. Some do it naturally, some not so much so. And this is, you can't tell people to trust you. And there are certain people. I work quite a lot in the legal realm, and if a lawyer goes out to a networking event and shaking hands, and they say, "Who are you?" and goes, "I am a lawyer. Trust me." It's like, doesn't always work, but it doesn't work for anybody. It's like trust is earned, and it is not something that you can kind of demand. It has nothing to do with position, and so it is. That's just the way it is. And anytime you tell anybody anything, if you say to somebody, "Well, I'm a compassionate person," it's like, really, compassionate people are just compassionate. It's a bit like when I drive by and there's a hotel, and outside on its big sign it says luxury hotel, and I'm like, well, the one thing I know is it's probably not a luxury hotel, because luxurious hotels are just that, luxurious. They don't have to tell you, and as soon as people start telling you, there's a kind of a resistance. If I say to you, you need to believe in world peace, lovely thing to believe in, and you're probably thinking, yeah, maybe that's my choice, maybe I need to believe in that, but if I tell you that I believe in world peace because of my daughter Maitland and my son Alistair, who I love to death, and I just want to make sure that the world is a safer place when I leave than it is currently, then people will probably much more likely be thinking about the fact that they might think that's a good idea as well. So how do we help people see, for instance, that you are a trustworthy person? Well, and I don't know, some of you might not be. I might be talking to some people who are actually thieves, incredibly violent, horrible, and nasty, and all the rest of it. In which case, you'll be making up other stories, to cover those bits up. Otherwise, that'll be a little iffy. But I'm assuming it's just not the way, and it really isn't. I mean, the vast majority of people have this urge to help each other. So what we've all had are moments when we've appeared in a trustworthy way. I mean, it could be as simple as if you've ever walked along and somebody's dropped something and you picked it up and gone, hey, you dropped this. Or especially if it was money. If they dropped a $20 bill, you pick it up and you run up and go tap them on the shoulder. And if you've had a moment like that, those can be slid into conversations so easily when you're meeting people, because you'll always have these little moments and little triggers that'll happen that can give you a little opening. But you just have to be aware that you've got them. And it's not like being overtly doing it. I mean, because that would look really disingenuous and would not work at all. But you'll have them. And especially if you kind of say the dollar bill thing, or you pick it up and you drop, ran out, tap them on the shoulder, and they turn around, and they were so surprised that somebody was doing that. I just had a call. I called them. I had a package arrive on my porch, and it was addressed to somebody who I had no idea it was, and so I ended up calling the people and going, it's here. I just, it's not mine. I don't know it. And the person on the phone went, oh, well, thank you so much for being honest. And I was like, oh, yeah. Now, I did realize that it was the person who was going to be staying with us the next week. And so there I was, probably sending their package back, which I managed to eventually get corrected on. But, but it's those little tiny little moments that you can share that kind of illustrate it. And so we've got hundreds of them, probably thousands of them. And we just need to kind of remember which little ones we have and what they show. You know, when was it you were compassionate? It could be so simple. You know, pets are an absolutely perfect way to, you know, of that element. There was, you know, I did a workshop recently, and there were several animal stories and of animals on their last legs or ending, and we had these beautiful like discussions, and and you could see the compassion in people just from the love of their pets. And so it those we just don't think like that, but we have to, because if, say, you are online dating, for instance, what do you have to do? You have to build a relationship and make a connection in an incredibly short period of time. But most importantly, you have to reveal who you are as a person. And so it's not just those three traits that will attract people towards us, but then you also need to be able to allow people to think about, you know, I love to ski, I love to ride bicycles, I love to sail. You know, they're three of my loves, and the reason I love it is because each one has a distinctly different motion that you just do not get when you go through life every day. It's like that sensation on a bicycle descending a hill, or on a sailboat when it hits into the wind and it's on the beat, and it just goes up and then pounds and goes and pounds into the water each time. And my neighbours are going off to the Virgin Islands this evening, and they're not taking me, and I'm very disappointed. So that's a complete side note right there. Um, so so you can also reveal who you are as a person, you know, because remember, every time one of those happens, it triggers other people's long-term memory, and they're like, oh, I would sail, or I would ride bikes, or I love to hike, or I love reading, or science, or so we have to try and be able to help control these narratives, because they get a full picture of who you are, and it can happen really, really quickly. And then you'll see whether other people do it back. But of course, now you know this, the other part you can do is help them reveal who they are by asking the right questions at the right time in the right way. And that way, they will also be able to kind of start getting that idea of, is this a good match? Is this a good fit? And we do it all the time. And we're just not necessarily super conscious of it. But now we can be a little bit more. So we have those stories that you need to kind of mine and gather and just have in your back pocket and can bring out at any kind of a moment. But then we have the other inner stories, which are the stories that we tell ourselves. And these can be really sinister little buggers, in all honesty, I think, for an awful lot of people. And I know certainly for myself. It's like, what is the story you tell yourself? And is it actually true? And maybe most importantly, do you believe it? And so there are so many little areas that we have these tales that we tell ourselves. And I think the thing that is most important for us is to think, does it serve us? There is a quote that I've always loved from Eleanor Roosevelt, and she said, comparison is the thief of joy. And I was like, oh boy, that is so true for me. It's like, why would I compare myself to somebody else or other things or whatever it is if it doesn't serve me? And yet I find I do it quite often. And I think a lot of people do. And it's like, it's great to have people out there that you're aiming for, things you're striving for, but never if it beats you down. And so we have to be very careful with these stories, But again, we have many. We have the ones that will beat us up, but we also have these beautiful moments where we were wonderfully successful, or people we suddenly realize we made a difference in somebody's life, or a moment where a child, tells you that you've been a beautiful parent. It's like, but remember these because we can bring those back anytime, and it just makes you feel so much better. So it's a balance of being able to have the ones that will motivate and drive us forward and take us to the levels that we want to go to, but also the ones that we can lean on if we start going gently down the spiral. And it's like the next one and the next one. Remembering that every story is triggered by the next story. So if we're triggering on this downward spiral, the likelihood is the next ones will be the bad ones. And we have to be able to snap and come out and be able to try and go forward and really celebrate who we are as people. So inner stories, think about them a little bit. They are always happening all the time. And so just spend a little time the next day just kind of seeing, when are you actually telling yourself a story? And is that story true? Does it serve you? And do you believe it? And enjoy doing it. Now, we also like to do little tips, and that would be kind of one of those little real world tests, just to kind of check it out and see whether it happens for you. We also like to, on this little moment we have together, like to give you a tip or something to do on that can help you kind of improve your storytelling or tweak your storytelling as it goes. And the one that I was thinking of a little bit today is, because we're talking about these little pieces we're trying to fit in and slide into conversations, think of stories as moments. And if it's a longer story, even when it's a whole tale, there's that anecdote that rolls all the way through with all the arc of a story. But even then, think of it as a series of moments rather than just this one big fat story just there. Because it's always the moments that we want, and then they become very purposeful. And you don't, these, especially since the reason I was thinking about this was, especially when we're talking about these inner stories, they're super short little moments, and you just capture them and you deliver it, and you're in and you're out. And even though they're tiny little moments, the arc is always in there. Because remember, stories existed way before anybody started thinking about what a structure was. And so the structure was designed from the story, not the other way around. So think about those things. Let me know. Say hey. I would love to hear from you. And there's a few bits. I do offer in-person workshops, but also virtual workshops, so you can do it from anywhere. And I also do corporate work a lot as well. So, and I can also do one-on-ones. So anything in that kind of story realm, I would love if you're interested. Matthew at matthewtaylor.com is the website. And if you're not sure whether this is you're right for a storytelling workshop or why, and because I have so many people taking for different reasons and different purposes, you can go on my website and you can just sign up for a chat with Matthew, and we can chat for a little. You can have a little Zoom appointment for 15 minutes, and we'll chat and see whether it seems like it's a good fit or not. So I would love to do that. Having said that, wasn't quite as easy to set up as I was anticipating. So it might appear shortly, but I've got a little bit of work on that. I'm not the greatest technical guy in the world. Luckily, I have lovely people who help me and who support me on that. And so it will be all sorted out. So that will be very soon. And so that would be great. Also, we have a group, which is the Thoroughly Fun Storytelling group, which is on a Facebook group. And if you can pop in there, and we chat and trade ideas with stories, and people can kind of link up and chat between themselves as well, and all that good stuff. So anyway, that kind of concludes us for this little week. So I'm Matthew Taylor with Persuasion Through Narrative, and this has been Make Stories Matter. thank you so much for being with us and chatting and seeing it. I love doing these little bits, and I will look forward to chatting to you next Wednesday at 2 o'clock. And what we will be talking about on that is getting to it. Yep, it's going to be that whole part of getting to your story and why that's important. Okay, take care. Have a good one.